G'day everyone, welcome to another edition of Chris Rankin's Music Crush. A very special one for me today because I have just received probably one of the biggest grails on vinyl for all time for me. Now, I already had this album on CD. I got it the day it came out. I have all this band's CDs, and in fact every single album I got on the time of its release, except for their debut, which I heard about 3 months after it came out, and it's a band that changed my heavy metal world forever and for the best. I thought I knew everything about metal. I was an obsessed metalhead as a young kid, early 70s, all through the 80s, just listened to every single thing I could, and I thought I knew it all until a band came along in 1987 and gave my metal world a complete left turn, and I've never looked back, and they expanded my world, and I still call the man behind this band one of my favourite musicians of all time, and I think he's one of the most amazing musical geniuses of all time, and I think has done more for the heavy metal world than almost anyone has ever done. And this has been one of my biggest grails on vinyl. The couple of times that was reissued since its original pressing, I missed. And thankfully a distributor, I don't know how they had these, but they re-released. It's a repressing from 2014. So this is not a new repressing, but they must have had some stock from somewhere, or I don't know how. But it is a brand new sealed record. They only released a very small amount of it. I got a notification from this distributor, Direct Merch, and I jumped on it instantly. A lot of the reissues and represses were very expensive. The original from 1995 was very expensive indeed, and I didn't really want to pay that because I do, as I say, I've already got it on CD. I've had it since day one. It's by a band that's my equal favourite band of all time, certainly equal favourite metal band of all time. This album is probably, well, definitely, I think I normally have, I'll put it down to about 4 equal top favourite metal albums of all time. I really can't separate these 4. This album is one of them, and it's by a band that is in my top 4 favourite metal bands of all time, and those 4 bands are kind of equal as well, and they're the same 4 bands that have a release of those 4 metal albums of my favourite all time. So I've been building this up a little bit now. Some of you will have probably guessed by the shirt and a little bit of a display behind me with the timeline of who and what is the grail that I received today, and I can't be happier. It sounds just fantastic, and I've played it actually through about 4 or 5 times today just in receiving it, and I'm talking about this album, Death, Symbolic, their 1995 masterpiece, 6th album. I could really do literally a 10-second video on this album. All I need to say is its flawless perfection. There is not one note I would change. There is not one thing about this album I would change. It flows perfectly. I mean, one of my favourite metal songs of all time, I would put it in my top 5 favourite metal songs of all time, is on here, which is Sacred Serenity. The genius of Chuck Schuldiner to start that song with an absolutely beautiful, escapist guitar solo is just genius. To start a death metal song like that with this quite sort of atmospheric, science fiction, spacey, beautiful guitar solo, and then leading into that big, heavy, crunching riff. And that's just one song, Sacred Serenity. The chorus I love. There's that big middle section where it's quite sort of proggy, Love it. Of course, you've got Symbolic that starts off the album. The dun 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 dun. I'm sorry for butchering that, a magnificent riff, but you know the one I mean. And that great chorus. Everything on this album is absolute perfection. I love it to bits. Chuck Schuldiner is easily one of my favourite musicians of all time. Any genre, not just metal, any genre. I think he's a pioneer, a genius. His songwriting, his visionary. He pretty much basically started 3 subgenres of metal, death metal. Not completely, I know, and there was other bands that predated, but death metal, progressive death metal, and even technical death metal, they were all pretty much him. And you think of the billions of bands that have come along since that time. He was the man that steered death metal. It didn't always have to be about gore and evil, and there was, you know, his albums became thought-provoking and talking about the world and life and all sorts of things. A genius. I was very sad the day he passed away. I was extremely sad, December 13th. And who knows what he could have gone on to make. Of course, he did make the Control Denied album, and there was obviously a whole lot of stuff that had been recorded for the follow-up album to The Fragile Art of Existence. That's never been released. Who knows if it ever will. Probably won't. But anyway, back to this album. So I finally got it. I got it today. It was pretty quick coming out to me, actually, which I was very pleased with. It's beautiful, and I did trace it. It is the 2014 reissue, so I don't know what direct merch had or how they got their hands on these, but it was sealed. It was all completely sealed. It wasn't like they were just storing some, you know, some weird, interesting stock or whatever. It is the 2014 reissue. It's on Metal Blade. You get the inner, and of course on this album you got Chuck, the mighty Gene Hoglan, who I've met, great dude, Bobby, and of course you got Kelly as well. Brilliant. Get all the lyrics in the back. Something I like about this too, on the lyrics here you get, I really like it when they do this. So where there's a solo in the song, it shows which guitar player did the solo. I really like that. I think it's excellent. I mean, you know, when you get used to a guitarist, you can sort of tell sometimes, but I think that's really clever. That's really neat. So that's the inner, and it's on. And this is how I kind of knew, even before looking at the dates, this is how I kind of knew, because I did remember that when these reissues came out in 2014, they were all completely on white. So you can see there, absolutely beautiful pressing. Plays magnificently. It plays exactly how I wanted it to. It's just very true. Exactly just right. The right amount of heaviness and meatiness. But obviously this is a technical death metal album, a progressive death metal album, so you wanted it to be reasonably clear and a really nice crisp sound, and it certainly is. So look, I won't make this video too long because it is just about this album. I could waffle on about this record for hours, and about the band Death. I just think they're one of those bands like Enslaved that I also love very much. And even though I love Iron Maiden very, very much, there's a few albums that I could really take or leave. But Death are one of those bands that all 7 albums I just absolutely adore. There's their weakest album for me is 9.9 out of 10, and that's pretty rare for a band. And even the album, there it is, just there. Obviously the early demo before it was Death, the Mantis album, absolutely adore, and of course the Control Denied, absolutely adore as well. And as I say, who knows where Chuck would have gone. I would love if they would actually release that second album, that a lot of it was recorded. But yeah, Death, Symbolic, probably my #1 grail on vinyl overall. It may not be my number one album grail overall, because there's a couple that I just don't have any physical copies of at all. At least with this one, I did have the CD, and I've always had the CD. It's probably one of my most played albums of all time. It would be up there with Iron Maiden's Power Slave as one of my most played albums of all time. But this, just specifically on vinyl, this was probably my number one grail, and now I finally have it, and I couldn't be happier. And as I say, after this video, even though it's late at night, I'll probably still play it again, just one more go. I just can't get enough of it. I absolutely love it. Zero tolerance, so good, without judgment. I know quite a few people, good friends, have that as their number one song on here, number one death song. Crystal Mountain, of course, the kind of sort of longer and really sort of spreading out Perennial Quest at the end. Misanthrope, heavy as hell. Just perfection all the way through. So yeah, I'm going to cut it short because I know I'm going to just keep rambling on and just keep using all sorts of different superlatives when all I really needed to say was a 10-second flawless perfection, and that would have been it. So thanks very much for watching. Hope you're all doing well, and yeah, I really appreciate any time you watch and comment and just say hello and let me know if there's something that you like and I should know about, or there's something that I've put you onto and you've loved. It's always I always really love to hear that. So yeah, once again, thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you soon.